The President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. I hand over to the prosecution to continue putting the question to the witness. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Saosaroon, we were discussing the telegram that you sent on 23 April 1978, which had a request for an opinion to brother about whether or not to arm people in the sector. Who was the brother whose opinion you were seeking?
Response. I sought opinion from Pol Pot.
And in reporting this issue to Pol Pot, you indicated that, quote, previously there were complicated elements in the sector and they were all disarmed. Can you explain to us who were the complicated elements in the sector who had been disarmed?
Response. As a matter of fact, soldiers when in the barrack or base were not armed. It was unlike they were on mission.
Who specifically were you referring to when you said that there had been previously that there had been complicated elements in the sector? Who were you talking about?
Response. I did not understand it well. I did not know what was the complicated issue then.
Mr. President, if I may read from the third OCIJ interview of the witness, E3/384, and the excerpt I would like to read is Khmer 00345-905, English 00348-374, and French ERN 00354-238. And we'll put that on the screen with your permission.
The President, you may proceed.
Mr. Witness, when you were asked about this telegram by the co-investigating judges and about that part of the telegram, you made the following statement, quote, in 1977, when I was working in Phet Da district, I heard that personnel of Office K-16 had fled. Before that flight, some weapons had been removed because the district was peaceful, but after that flight, all weapons were removed. End of quote. Do you confirm the accuracy, the truthfulness of this statement, Mr. Saosaroon?
Response: Yes, I do. The situation was like what I described before the co-investigating judges.
And is it correct then that the complicated elements in the sector who had been disarmed was in relation to the incident we talked about yesterday, where some cadres from Office K-16 had fled to Vietnam? Is that correct?
Response: That is also correct. They did flee to Vietnam, and I also told that incident before the co-investigating judges.
And when you said in your statement that after the flight all weapons were removed, was it a particular district where all weapons had been removed from? Can you clarify that for us?
Response: I cannot elaborate it further. That's what I understood about the situation then.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell us what response, did you receive a response to this question from Pol Pot?
Response: I did not really understand this. Could you please read out the statement I said?
I'll be happy to do that if you don't remember. But before, do you remember whether Pol Pot responded to your question about whether or not to arm the elements in the sector?
Response: Yes, he did reply regarding this matter.
And what was his response?
Response: He said they should be armed, and that was all.
Did he say anything to you about monitoring the people who were armed?
Response: No, he did not specify anything else.
Mr. President, if I may read from the witness's third interview, which is E3/384, and this is an excerpt from Khmer 00345 905, English ERN 00348 374, and French ERN 00354 238. We may proceed and put that on the screen with your permission.
The President: Yes, you may proceed.
When you were asked about paragraph 2 of this telegram, this is the testimony you gave. Quote, question: and how about in point 2 of the telegram 54? Answer: in Pol Pot's instructions in response were that after issuing arms, we were to monitor and then commence combat at once when encountering the Vietnamese. Was this a accurate statement on your part, Mr. Witness?
Response. Yes, the statement is accurate. If we were to encounter them, we had to engage in combat.
And how was it that Pol Pot communicated this instruction to you?
Response. I cannot recall this matter. It has been a long time and I am not really feeling that well.
I'll turn to another part of the paragraph, Mr. Sawswaroon, but if you are feeling too unwell to testify further, please let the President know so that he can assess the situation, or let your duty counsel know. Are you able to continue right now?
Response. Since I had been sick, my memory has become very poor. And of course, I made the statements to the convicting judges already. However, I cannot recall most of them.
Mr. Sawswaroon, let me turn to the next paragraph of your telegram, and let me first read to you the first part, the first paragraph in part 3 of your telegram, which reads, in which you stated the following. Paragraph 3, the issue of the situation inside the party. Comrade Soot, chairman of the repair factory, has committed immoral acts with a woman. Now the arrests have been made. Both the man and the woman have been arrested. This comrade was previously implicated in the confession of the traitor Ah Chun. At that time, the sector monitored his activities, but now he has been involved with these immoral acts and has been arrested and detained. Let me stop at that point and ask you, first of all, do you recall this situation involving Comrade Sot and a woman with whom he had committed immoral acts?
Response. Yes, I can recall that. They were detained and they were questioned, and they told us that they did not commit any immoral act. So after we educated them, they were released.
Let me start with the reference in here. There is a reference in this paragraph to Comrade Sot having been previously implicated in the confession of Chun. First of all, the Chun who's referenced here, this is the same person that we were discussing earlier today. Is that correct? Is this the same Chun who was the head of the Sector Commerce Office before his arrest?
Response: Yes, this is the same person.
Now, in your telegram, you indicate that Comrade Sot had been implicated in Chun's confession. How is it that you had come to learn that Sot was implicated in Chun's confession?
Response: When Sot was detained, we questioned him, and he said that he was implicated into someone's response. But then he was not implicated at all in the affair of June. He was only implicated in the affair of the immoral act with a woman. But after that, everything was clear.
Why is it that you referred to Chun as a traitor in your telegram?
Response: At that time, I did not say that. I did not say who was the traitor or this or that person was a traitor.
Mr. Witness, before the incident occurred in which involving Sot and this woman, had you received either the confession of Chun or information about who had been implicated in Chun's confession?
Response: No, I did not.
Mr. President, we would like now to read from the third interview of this witness by the co-investigating judges, document E3/384 at Khmer ERN 00345-903, English ERN 00348-372 through 348-373, and French ERN 00354-236. And again, to put that up on the screen, if we may.
Respond: The President: Yes, you may proceed.
Mr. Sausaroon, in the statement, your testimony to the co-investigating judges, you testified as follows on this subject. Question: Have you ever read the confessions of Chun? Answer: I have never read them. Question: If you never read them, how did you know? Answer: I learned from Pol Pot sending a telegram directly to me saying that Sot had appeared in the responses of Chun. That was about 10 days before I detained Sot. Was this a truthful statement, Mr. Witness?
Response: Yes, the statement is truthful.
So it is correct that you received a telegram from Pol Pot indicating that Sot had appeared in Chun's confession. Is that correct?
Response: Yes, that is correct.
Mr. Witness, what actions or measures were you expected to take when you were informed by the center that persons in your organization had been implicated as possible traitors. What were you supposed to do when you were informed of that?
Response. No, I did not take any action.
Well, it says in your telegram, Mr. South Saroon, that after learning that Comrade Sot had been implicated in Troon's confession, the sector monitored his activities. Can you tell us what it was that the sector did to monitor Comrade Sot's activities after you learned that he had been implicated in the confession?
Response. There was no monitoring. After he was reported, we questioned him, and that he was not involved in anything, and he was alleged to have involved in the immoral act. We educated him, and he was let go.
How was it that you learned that Comrade Sot had allegedly been involved in immoral acts with the women? How did you become aware of that?
Response. It was reported from his group or his unit, otherwise I would not have known about that. So it was reported from his unit, and it was brought to my attention.
And after it was brought to your attention and Comrade Sot and the woman were detained, were they questioned about this matter?
Response. We did not question them on any other matters except that one matter.
And so we're clear, what was the one matter that you questioned them about?
Response. It was like I stated earlier. They were not questions on other matters. The only matter that he was questioned is in relation to the immoral act, and that he denies that he involved in any of the allegations, and after that he was released, and that was all.
What was the immoral act that he was accused of?
Response. I really didn't know much about the allegation of the immoral act.
Mr. President, if I may read again from the third interview of this witness, which is E3/384 at Khmer 00345-904, English 00348-373, and French ERN 00354-237, and put that on the screen, if we may.
The President, yes, you may proceed.
The question and answer that I would like to ask you about from this page, Mr. Sasaroon, is as follows. Question: why did Sot fall in love with that girl and then get arrested? Answer: because Sot already had a wife. Is it correct that the immoral act that led to Sot and the woman being arrested was an accusation that they were having an affair? Is that correct, Mr. Witness?
Response: yes, that is correct. He already had a wife, and then he still had an affair with another woman.
Who is it that had instructed you that having an affair was an immoral act for which people should be arrested? Who had told you that?
Response: I cannot recall that. It has been so long already. The only thing I knew was that he was alleged of immoral act.
Now, you've said that both Comrade Sot and the woman were questioned about the allegation of an immoral act. Who was it that questioned them?
Response: there was a group who did that.
And who were the people in this group?
Response: I did not know them. I did not know any members of the group. I was only told that he was alleged of committing an immoral act, and that was it.
Where was it that Comrade Sot had been arrested?
Response: it was in the sector. Actually, it was not a proper or a real arrest. He was just detained.
Where was it that he was detained? Was it at the K11 security office that you mentioned earlier? Was it at the Phnom Creole security office? Was it at the K17 sector office? Can you tell us where it was that Sot was detained?
Response: at that time he was detained, which means that he was not allowed to go out of his unit, and that was it.
I want to ask you about the next line in your telegram that follows your description of the situation related to Comrade Sot. The translations in English and French are somewhat different, so I would like my national colleague, Mr. President, if I could, to read the original Khmer language to the witness and then proceed from there with your permission. And just so we're clear, that the sentence we would like to read it's the sentence that immediately follows the third paragraph.
The President, yes, you may proceed. Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to read that excerpt. Regarding this matter, please provide your opinion as to what level I should take or where to be sent to.
So the question I'd like to ask you is, why was it that you were asking Pol Pot for his opinion on the level at which this person should be kept or where he should be sent? Why were you asking for Pol Pot's opinion on that matter?
Response. I am not really clear regarding this portion of the text. Could you please read it again? Allow me to read it again as follows. Regarding this matter, please give your opinion at what level the person shall be kept or where he shall be sent to.
So my question is very simple. Can you tell us why you asked Pol Pot that?
Response. Because he had been detained, and I had to, and it is not really just to simply send the person to the upper level. I needed to seek the opinion from the upper level as where I should send the person whom I detained to. And this person was involved in the allegation of immoral act with a woman, and I needed to sought the instruction from the upper level.
And in response to your telegram, did you receive instruction from the upper level on what to do?
Response. Yes, after I sought the opinion, the upper echelon replied that it was an immoral act, that I should educate them.
And who was it from the upper level that responded to your telegram?
Response. It was Mr. Pol Pot.
Do you recall when Pol Pot sent you telegrams, how those telegrams were signed? Did he use his name? Did he use a code name or alias? Can you tell us that?
Response. He wrote it by himself.
Thank you. I want to ask you a few questions about the issue of authority. In the case of prisoners who had been, or detainees who had been accused of being either traitors or accused of betraying the party, did you have authority to decide what to do with those persons, or did you have to obtain approval from the leaders in Phnom Penh?
Response. Before I came to manage the office, there were a few people, 4 or 5 of them, who had been detained. I had them questions, and they were not implicated in this kind of matter. They had some issues with the family, so I sought opinions from the upper echelon. And Mr. Pol Pot said that due to the circumstance, they should have been released. And that's what I did, and that's it.
And in the case of people who had been accused of being enemies or betraying the party, who was it that had the authority to decide whether they should be released, detained, or smashed?
Response. None of those who had been questioned should have been smashed. There was some minor implications amongst them, and some of the reports were inaccurate. So there was nothing into the core matter of betrayal. And that was the matter.
Mr. President, if I may read from the third interview of this witness by the co-investigating judges, which is E3/384 at Khmer 00345-904, English 00348-373, and French ERN 00354-237. And we will also like to display that on the screen.
The President, yes, you may proceed.
Mr. Witness, in your statement to the co-investigating judges, you gave the following testimony. Quote, question, in what cases did you have the right to release on your own? Answer, cases related to minor insignificant killings, like fights or arguments in the base area, and cases not related to politics or betraying the party. Question, what does political cases or cases of betraying the party mean? Answer, for instance, persons collaborating with the aggressor one or the enemy, meaning the one enemy. Mr. Witness, is this a correct statement of the authority the division of authority as between you and the leaders in Phnom Penh?
Response. That point is correct.
And was the reason that you were writing to Ankar about Comrade Sot and asking for their opinion the fact that he had been implicated as a traitor in Chun's confession? What I'm interested in knowing is if he had not been implicated as a traitor in the confession and was only accused of having an immoral act, would you have written and reported the matter to Ankar, or were you only reporting it because of the accusation that he was a traitor?
Response. I did ask him, but I found nothing to do with betrayal act. There were minor wrongdoing. For example, he had problem about women and things like that.
Thank you, Mr. Salsroon. Let me turn now to another subject, which concerns trips and meetings in Phnom Penh after that occurred during 1978. We've already talked about some of your written reports or telegrams after the time that you had been asked to take over from Lang. You have told us about a trip that you took to Phnom Penh where you had been asked by Pol Pot to take over from Lang. Do you recall several months later traveling again to Phnom Penh?
Response. It happened long time ago. I have forgotten it, particularly since I fell ill. I can no longer memorize events in the past.
Let me try to help you with your recollection by reading from an excerpt from your first interview to the investigating judges, which is E3/367 at Khmer 00251-439, English ERN 00278-696, and French ERN 00486-011. And if we may put that excerpt on the screen, Mr. President.
The President, you may proceed.
In your first interview, you made the following statement, Mr. Witness, quote, "About 2 or 3 months after the death of Lang and Kampung, I received a telegram from Pol Pot calling the cadres to a meeting. In its content, 6 cadres, including Ta Vieng, Ta Lok, Ta Kim, Ta Lan, Ta Sophia, and myself were called to go to a meeting in Phnom Penh." Was this a accurate, is this a correct statement, Mr. Witness?
Response. That is correct. We did convene them for a meeting.
And on this occasion, when you traveled to Phnom Penh with this group of people, how did you travel? How did you travel there?
Response. I am not clear with the question. Could you please repeat it?
How did you go to Phnom Penh for this trip? Did you fly again?
Response. I cannot recall whether or not I flew to Phnom Penh or I took the boat to Phnom Penh. I cannot recollect it.
The telegram you received from Pol Pot asking you to come to this meeting, did it identify the people that he wanted you to bring, or did you decide which of the cadres in the sector should come with you to the meeting?
Response. It was the order right from the top from Pol Pot. I did not have any authority to convene this person or that person to the meeting.
Now, some of the people that you mentioned who went on this trip to you, we've talked about before, but there's a couple of new names I just want to identify with you. You indicate that one of the people who was called to go to Phnom Penh with you was Tak Kim. Can you tell us who Tak Kim was?
Response. Tak Kim was a member of Division 920.
Was he the Deputy Secretary of Division 920 under Tassan?
Response. Yes, he was the deputy to Tassan.
And we've heard the name Bieng before, but can you tell us what his position was in 1978?
Response. He was the chairman of the battalion.
Is it correct that most of the people who were called to you, called to go with you on this trip, were military leaders from either Sector 105 or Division 920?
Response. That is correct.
And when you got to Phnom Penh, who did you meet with there?
Response. We met with Pol Pot.
Do you recall meeting with other leaders in addition to Pol Pot?
Respond. I didn't meet with any other leaders.
Mr. President, if I may read from the first interview of this witness, document E3/367, and this excerpt is from Khmer 00251-439, English ERN 00278-696, and French ERN 00486-011. If we may put that on the screen.
The President, you may proceed.
In your statement to the co-investigating judges about this meeting, you said the following, quote, "The six of us flew to meet with Kusampan, alias Hem, Son Sen, alias Ku, Noon Chea, and Pol Pot at the same Pol Pot's office behind the Royal Palace." Is this a correct statement, Mr. Witness, as to who you met with in Phnom Penh?
The President. Witness, please hold on. There is an objection by the Defense Counsel. You may proceed, Counsel.
This is not entirely an objection, Mr. President, but I just wish to inform you that following verification made by my team, it would appear that there are some problems concerning transcription in these documents concerning the witness. And I believe that I would be remiss if I were not to inform you that there seems to be a missing name and a missing alias.
Response. The President. I hand over to Judge Lavange.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. Verken, can you please be more specific? Can you please tell the court exactly what the discrepancies are? Are you talking about the audio recording? And can you please be specific with respect to the differences between the audio recording and the written transcript? What kind of discrepancies are there exactly? Answer. Your Honor, there seems to be a difference between the audio recording of this witness and the co-investigating judges and the transcript, which is cited in the written record of witness interview. It would appear that in the audio recording, the investigators who had led the interview of this person had very clearly indicated the alias of my client. I can give you the exact reference of the audio recording. However, I do not have the reference of the transcript of the audio recording. These are just notes that we had made upon inspection of the audio recording. Therefore, the recording in question is at 1 hour, 26 minutes, and 30 seconds. Judge Laverne, so if I understand you correctly, the alias of Mr. Khieu Samphan seems to have been suggested and not actually clearly indicated by the witness. Is that correct? Counsel Verken, yes, it is exactly that, Your Honor.
The President. Prosecutor, you may continue, and please repeat your last question because it appears that the witness does not recall the question.
Thank you, Mr. President. And since the aliases are not an integral part of this, let me ask the question to the witness this way. As you told the investigating judges, is it correct that when the six of you went to Phnom Penh on this trip, that the leaders you met with were Khieu Samphan, Son Sen, Noon Chea, and Pol Pot? Is that correct?
Response. That is correct.
How long was the meeting that you had with Khieu Samphan, Noon Chea, Son Sen, and Pol Pot?
Response. We met them for one morning.
And to confirm the location of this meeting, was it the same room and same place that you had met with Pol Pot, Nuon Chea, and Son Sen several months earlier after the death of Lang? Was it the exact same location?
Response. That is correct. That was at the same place.
And what was discussed at this meeting that took place between you and 5 other cadres from Sector 105 and Khieu Samphan, Son Sen, Nuon Chea, and Pol Pot? What were the subjects of this meeting?
Response. In that meeting, we discussed the issue concerning managing the forces and the masses. We had to educate people and raise their awareness about economic matters and how they could help themselves in terms of self-sufficiency, and we had to also advise our forces to strengthen the defense of our border areas.
And at this meeting, did you report to the Phnom Penh leaders on the activities in Sector 105?
Response. No, I didn't. I only reported the overall situation about economic activities, but we did not report any other activities because we did not see, and neither did we know them.
Let me just clarify. Are you saying that you did report on some subjects relating to Sector 105 at this meeting? Are you saying that you did not report at all on what was going on in the sector?
Mr. President, witness, please hold on, and we have to hear the objection by the Defense Counsel. The Defense Counsel, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I believe that the question is repetitive. The witness has already answered it.
Simply, Mr. President, the response was somewhat unclear. I'm trying to clarify what exactly, whether or not they did report on certain subjects.
The President, objection is not sustained, and the witness is instructed to respond to the last question posed by the prosecutor. Response. Could you please repeat your last question because I do not clearly understand it?
Yeah, my question was asking you to clarify on whether or not you reported at this meeting on the situation in Sector 105.
Response. In that meeting, we reported mainly on the livelihood of the people, the rice production per year, and we also reported whether or not people had enough food supply for the year. We did report to that extent, but what I would like to emphasize is that we reported mainly on the livelihood and welfare of the people in our sector.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Can you tell us, was this a meeting, were you called to this meeting because of some unusual matter or special matter that occurred? Or was this a regular meeting at which you were called to report on your activities? Can you tell us that? Was this a meeting that occurred periodically from time to time, or was this a meeting that resulted because of some special situation?
Response. I do not understand the question. I don't know which meeting you are referring to. Could you please simplify the question?
Yes, thank you. My question is, were there regular meetings at which you were to go to Phnom Penh and report to the leaders on the situation in the sector?
Response. When I came to this sector and I stayed in that sector for 2 months, and I provided report to them on the welfare of the people, whether or not they had sufficient food supply to feed the people in the sector, and I provided reports on several occasions. We had to report basically on the economic welfare of the people. We did not report about any other activities. They did ask us information for information, but we did not know much about other activities. We did not know about those activities, so we did not report.
Thank you. Yesterday, you told my colleague that you first met Khieu Samphan during the Democratic Kampuchea regime. You've just described to us one occasion where you met him. Can you describe for us any other occasions between April 1975 and January 1979 where you saw Khieu Samphan?
Response. I saw Khieu Samphan when I attended that meeting. I did not know him clearly back then. And when I attended that meeting, I got to know him then.
Did you used to talk to Khieu Samphan about economic matters during when you would come to Phnom Penh for meetings?
Respond. Yes, I did talk about economic matters with him. We requested materials to supply to the people. For example, we requested salts and clothes to provide to the people. And we also discussed other matters as well and chit-chatted with each other.
And what were the meetings where you would see Khieu Samphan and have discussions about economic matters and make requests for supplies? What were these meetings?
Response. It was at the same meeting venue as I told you a bit earlier on.
And when you say that you made requests for clothes and other materials to Khieu Samphan, were these written requests?
Response. During the talk, we did not have anything in writing. We only informed him about the actual shortages so that we brought that matter up to their attention. That was it.
How is it that you knew that Khieu Samphan was the person to make requests to for such materials?
Response. Because I knew at that time that he was the president of the state presidium.
How many occasions do you recall having chit-chats with Khieu Samphan about economic matters or making requests to him for materials?
Response. It was only once when I had that chance to chit-chat with him. The President. Thank you, witness, Mr. Salsarun. According to the information you provided to the chamber this morning, that due to your health concern, you can simply provide testimony for the morning session. In view of your health concern, we would like to check again whether or not you cannot provide testimony this afternoon. Is that correct? Witness, that is correct, Mr. President. President. Mr. Salsarun, your testimony as the witness has not come to an end yet, and taking into consideration your health concern, the chamber will not hear your testimony this afternoon, and your testimony will be resumed on Monday, the 11th of June 2012. So we invite you to appear before us to provide further testimony on Monday, the 11th June 2012. And this hearing will start from 9 a.m. in the morning. The chamber wishes to invite the witness and the duty counsel to appear before us again on Monday. Court officer is instructed to coordinate with the Waisu unit to facilitate the transportation of the witness back home and bring him back to this courtroom on Monday before 9 a.m. And the chamber wishes to advise the parties that this afternoon proceedings will hear the testimony TCW 323. And the prosecutor will be allowed the floor to ask the question first after the question by the president of the chamber. And the time is now appropriate for lunch adjournment. The chamber will adjourn now until 1:30 this afternoon. Counsel, you may proceed.
Je vous remercie, monsieur.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Just to follow up on the comment I made earlier on, I had asked the Chamber for leave to make a request to the transcript unit for records of the audio recordings of the interviews conducted with this witness made by the co-investigating judges. Investigators, it would appear that certain passages were not transcribed and that certain excerpts could have been distorted during the transcribing of the audio recording to the written record. Therefore, I would seek your leave to make such a request to the transcript unit, pursuant to your relative memorandum. I thank you, Your Honours.
The President, counsel for Mr. Nguyen Chia, you may proceed.
I was hesitant to stand up because my point is not related. It's just announcing that my client would like to spend this afternoon in his holding cell, and we have the waiver prepared. Totally unrelated. That's why I didn't want to interrupt. But before you closed these proceedings, I wanted to make this comment.
President, thank you. Having noted the request by Nguyen Chia through his defense counsel that he waives his right to participate directly in this courtroom for the remainder of the proceedings today. And the defense team will submit the chamber immediately the waiver. The request by Mr. Nguyen Chia through his defense counsel is granted, so that Mr. Nguyen Chia may follow the proceeding from a holding cell downstairs through audio-visual means for the remainder of the proceedings today. He has expressly waived his right to participate directly in this courtroom. The chamber requires the defense team for Nguyen Chia to submit the chamber immediately the waiver by Mr. Nguyen Chia with his signature or some print. An AV assistant is instructed to connect the courtroom proceeding to the AV equipment downstairs for the remainder of the proceedings this afternoon. And security guards are instructed to bring Mr. Nguyen Chia and Mr. Kyu Sampon to the holding cell downstairs, and Mr. Nguyen Chia is to be remained at the holding cell where audio-visual equipment is connected for him to follow the proceeding by a remote means. And Mr. Kyu Sampon is to be brought before this chamber before 1:30 this afternoon. The court is now adjourned.
សូមក្រោកឈរ